Niger youths begin hunger protest on Abuja-Kaduna Road. Ahead of the August 1st to 12th hunger protest by Nigerian youths under the hashtag #EndBad Government, some youths in Niger State have taken to the streets to protest the hardship Nigerians are currently facing. Pipe. This is coming barely 1 week after the Niger State Governor, Mohammed Bago, announced that Niger State youths would not go out on the streets to protest, saying the youths of the state were peace-loving. Reliable information reaching Punch disclosed that some youths of the state trooped to the streets of Niger State to protest the ongoing cost of living crisis in Nigeria. The youths were seen along the Expressway on Tafa local government carrying placards which read, "Enough is enough, stop anti-masses policies, we are not slaves in our country, hardship is unbearable, fuel subsidy must be back," among others. Pipe. The protesting youths were said to have marched the streets of the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway as they chanted anti-government songs. Pipe. An eyewitness, who gave his name as Sule Ndaji, told Punch that the protest took place, and it was the intervention of soldiers stationed on the highway that entreated the youths to sheath their swords until the date slated. For the nationwide protest, Pipe, I saw the protesters early this morning carrying placards and chanting protest songs. It was the soldiers on the expressway that calmed the youths, telling them to wait until the date of the protest, Ndaji said. So many organizations and agencies in Niger State had given assurance that youths in the state would not be part of the hunger protest, stressing that the organizers were faceless and hoodlums and other miscreants may hijack the protest. The governor had also announced palliatives to Niger residents to ensure that the state did not involve in any protest. Pipe. We have over 100,000 metric tons of food in our reserves, out of which we will be releasing 50,000 metric tons to be sold at 50% of its present price. Before the end of the year, we will slash food prices by 90%, Bago had announced at a town hall meeting. The Niger State Police Command spokesman Abiodun Wasiu, who confirmed the protest, disclosed that some youths were seen on the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway but were later dispersed by law enforcement agents. The issue is that some few boys were discovered around Kaduna Road, and immediately, Area Commander Suleja moved to the scene with his men, and the situation was brought under control. Pipe. They were dispersed immediately. Pipe. There was no blockade of the road along Abuja-Kaduna Road. We also heard rumors that there was an issue around Madala, but as I'm speaking with you, there was no issue, there was no problem in Madala. However, the area commander is on a show of force and monitoring the situation within Suleja and its environs. As I speak with you, the area is calm. People should continue their lawful businesses, Wasiu said. Recent statements by senior Nigerian government officials and security agencies regarding the planned nationwide protests raise serious concerns. The official rhetoric suggests a troubling readiness to stifle dissent, heightening fears of a violent crackdown. Calls to protest emerged following recent demonstrations in Kenya against increased taxes on essential goods and have gained traction on social media in Nigeria using the hashtag #EndBad Governance. The Kenyan protests evolved into broader demands for government reforms, which appears to resonate with many Nigerians facing the worst cost of living crisis in nearly 30 years. By June 2024, Nigeria and number 039's inflation rate hit 34.19%, with food inflation exceeding 40%. Organizers of the planned protests, scheduled to begin on August 1st, say they are aimed at addressing both economic hardships and long-standing systemic issues, such as corruption. Pipe. Media reports quote President Tinubu and senior administration officials labeling the protests as unwarranted and politically motivated. The Department of State Services alleged the protests are intended to undermine the government and create conditions for regime change, and will be used to incite chaos and violence. Pipe. Similarly, the military warned that the protests could lead to anarchy and has promised to take proactive measures to maintain control. The police have cautioned against the protests, suggesting they could be used as a cover to unleash terror. Pipe. These preemptive warnings are troubling, especially given the Nigerian security forces and history of violently repressing peaceful protests. The brutal crackdown of the EndSARS protests in October 2020, when military and police officers fired on unarmed protesters, killing at least 12, remains fresh in the memory. A recent Economic Community of West Africa court ruling found that the Nigerian government had violated protesters and rights during the EndSARS protests. Commemorative protests to mark the first anniversary of the #EndSARS movement. 2022 strikes and protests by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, over unpaid allowances and inadequate funding for the education sector. PIPE. 2023 protests against the removal of fuel subsidies. Protests against the removal of fuel subsidies by the new administration of President Bola Tinubu led to a rise in fuel prices and the cost of living. This timeline highlights some of the significant protests in Nigeria since 1999 and reflects current issues related to governance, economic policy, human rights, and regional unrest.